We'll take clarifications on this topic now, about 10 to 15 minutes of clarification time, because the other MCCY POAHs also have to respond to the cuts. So could I invite members, if there are any clarifications? Mr. Zulkarnain Abdul Rahim.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, Deputy Chairman. Thanks to Minister. I have two questions. One on ICOS. Moving forward, we also need to look at the online spaces, be it social media or online gaming platforms, which are the new frontier for the influence and ideologies jostle. So perhaps MUIS and its foreign counterparts can consider strategies to occupy this space and perhaps have a permanent ICOS online platform for this. Second, on the strengthening foundation of families, I thank Minister for the comprehensive reply. Lately, we read about family violence case against a young child. Family units are complex. There are blended families, single parents, unwed mothers, grandparents, or elder siblings playing the parenting role. Are there any focus areas, perhaps consolidated focus areas on this group of our community so that we don't forget them? Perhaps focusing on parenting skills and working together with organizations like PPIS, AMP, or BAPA. Thank you.
Minister Masagos. Thank you, Chairman. On ICOS, I certainly agree. If you look at the number of the population of Muslim living in as minorities in countries, this number about 400 million. And many of them live in similar conditions like ourselves, secular, as minority, progressive, and protected by law, bound by the Constitution. And this is one area where we can find synergy and work with similar communities. And in fact, in the last ICOS conference, many of them applauded our initiative, initiative to start the conversation going, including from religious teachers. And therefore, one of the areas, if this is a real concern for others too, the online space, we certainly will develop that specifically for minority communities. Secondly, on the families, as I mentioned in my MSF speech, we want to build fundamentally strong families, and therefore we have to support throughout their whole journey, from the time even before they get married to the time they have children and the time they grow up. Strong families, and FFL, the Family for Life Council, is on the ground and going to expand national programs. And I hope that whatever our community, whatever background we come from whatever communities, tap on these national initiatives. And at the same time, we will support those that have special needs, whether it's about family violence or relationship issues, and FAM at FSC will provide them. And then at the third layer, we also want and have been engaging Malay Muslim organizations to provide culturally nuanced and even religiously effective way of addressing the issues in addition to those that are given at the national level.
Ms. Nadia Samdin.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. SMS Zaqy earlier mentioned that the Empowered program will be progressively rolled out across all the ITEs and MCube towns. May I ask if there's plans to involve companies in the private sector to partner the Empowered program to expose our youth to jobs in growth sectors like tech and finance, as well as entrepreneurship and other professional roles, please?
So thank you again. I thank the member for her question. Certainly, we are always on the lookout for partners to help us expand the breadth and width of our programs, especially to help our young be exposed to what's out there in the market so that they have some sense of what's needed, guided to pursue such careers, as well as being able to see the companies in action. So last month, we announced one of our first, our first private sector mentorship collaboration with MSD Pharma. Some of you may know them as Merck, under the Empowered IT program. So MSD Pharma is one of the biggest pharma companies in Singapore and rated among the best employees in the country since 2020. So these programs, through these programs, our IT students will receive guidance on how they can prepare themselves and be given a chance at, maybe even interning or visiting some of their factories or manufacturing plants. As you know, beyond IT, last year we also announced the GIC Mendaki scholarships, for example, even partnership with Mirexus, so that we can have meaningful careers in finance and biotech, for example, as areas in which we want Malay Muslim kids to also pursue. And of course, moving forward, we look forward to more partnerships where we can expose our kids through various platforms. And I hope that we can bring on board. If any of you know or anyone who's interested can always refer corporates and partners to us, especially entrepreneurs, even SMEs too, to give our kids a chance to be exposed. So yes, this is one way in which we really want our kids to fulfill their potential. Thanks.
Mr. Shahril Taha.
Thank you, Deputy Chairman. I'd like to thank SMS Zaqy for sharing on the GIC scholarships. Is Mendaki looking at more scholarships with the private sectors in order to create more stronger mentorship programs for our youth? Thank you.
So the short answer is yes, we take what we can get, but I hope that we can certainly garner more who are interested to help uplift members of the community, and especially those that can give them wide range of exposures too, including internships, career guidance. And I like the Merck one because they also have they also committed to having professionals, up to 100 staff who will come down and coach our IT kids. So these are ways in which corporates can give back, and I hope that we can get more on board. We've also got entrepreneurs too, who like Ismail Ghaffur, who has also put in, funds to support our young kids who need additional coaching in maths, for example. So there are ways in which corporates, even large and small, who are doing their part to help uplift the community. Thank you.
Mr. Mohamad Faisal Abdul Manap. You put up your hand. You don't have a clarification? No. Mr. Saktiandi Supat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two clarification questions. One to Minister with regards to the Gedung-Gedung Ilmu, the repository for information resource for the Asatizas. And I think it's a wonderful initiative and program to step up our Asatizas. Can Minister share a bit more about how we can extend it even further beyond the subject matters and also beyond this year into next year? And my second related for that one is, what does it mean for the Asatizas' wages going forward? Does it help enhance their professionalism? And what does it mean eventually into the Asatizas' wages, and also encourage more young people to actually go into that area as well going forward? My second question is in regards to what Minister mentioned just now, the examples of professionals like the pilots, Malay Muslim pilots coming forward to help as a body. Can Minister share a bit more on the efforts to gather more professional groups to help the community, and like he mentioned, helping out even Sinda going forward as well, because he shared individuals and those are mostly locals, but the other element is also scouring more for overseas Malay Muslims that have actually done very well abroad, brought Singapore's brand name to higher heights and greater heights. And
Mr. Saktiandi, could I ask you to ask your supplementary questions? Thank you. Or clarifications. Thank you, Mr. Saktiandi. Minister Masagos.
Thank you, Chairman. The body of knowledge that our Muslim communities or those living as minorities are very relevant to us and also for societies that live in similar societies. When I broached this idea with the Mufti of Egypt, the scholars from Morocco, the Vice Dean of Karawi University, which is the oldest university of the Muslim world, as well as the Sheikh of Al-Azhar, they were very supportive and think that this is one area that we must really develop more. There is already a basic foundational knowledge on these issues or how to approach them. However, it's never been formalized, And this initiative that we now have undertaken is something that they want to support and they want to develop more of and contribute. And we are starting on our own first through the ICOS. We have gathered religious leaders now who have interest to contribute this body of knowledge through their research books. We now got really interesting books that they have contributed and never found applications for, and say, wow, this is exactly what I wrote these books for. At the same time, our own religious scholars are now undertaking postgraduate studies as well as contributing to this body of knowledge to the RPCS. So we hope putting this together as a depository one day, as soon as possible, to have a body of knowledge which we can reference for future leaders, religious leaders, so that we contribute we contribute meaningfully as a minority Muslim in nation building. Then secondly, on the pilots, he was not a single person. I mentioned one person, but actually he was leading a group of pilots who were interested to motivate, mentor IT students, to inspire them to go beyond whatever they are studying, to be able to fly, even if starting with a simulator. And this was an initiative that was broached by them, and I never had even thought about it, and I thought it was a wonderful way of the pilots dressed in their uniform, motivating our students, and I see many of them, the eyes really light up when they sit in this the cockpit simulator. Yes, I agree with the member that there are many more professionals, even entrepreneurs, people who have gone overseas. Please come back. You have great ideas that can motivate and inspire our community. But as I mentioned in my speech too, let's also contribute beyond. Let's also use these ideas, this expertise to also contribute those who need, and they not necessarily come from our community, like the pilots have done for SINDA.
Dr. Wan Rizal, then I'll take the final one or two clarifications on this topic.
Thank you, sir, for your indulgence. I have a question for Minister Maliki. I'm grateful that we are actually now expanding to more M-Cube at towns for Project Dian. I've seen the efforts. I think it's fantastic. In my cut, I mentioned some potential challenges in terms of manpower and coordination. Perhaps Minister can share what their plans to mitigate this. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I thank Dr. Wan Rizal for his question. Indeed, it is not an easy effort to bring about a coordination to help groups of families which are living in very difficult circumstances. So let me just recap. Project Dian is to help families living in our rental flats. We wanted to reach out to them. So the first thing we set out is to understand the structures and processes that needed to be put in place. For structures, it's essentially what Dr. Wan Rizal is speaking of. We created a steering committee made up of agency representatives at the central level. The ECO office, the Engagement and Coordination Office of M-Cube, established the steering committee made up of representatives from MSF, SSO, HDB, MOE, Uplift, and the M-Cube agencies. And with this coordination effort, we brought it down to all the pilot towns, and each pilot towns also have similar steering committees that's been established so that the staffers at the local level coordinate, understand each other, understand each case that needs to be supported. Within Project Dian, we have a group of volunteers. So Dr. Wan Rizal is absolutely right. The challenge is to get as many volunteers as we can because we literally were looking at knocking on every door of a Malay Muslim household to understand the circumstances of the way they live. And through the early effort in the three pilot towns, we've been able to reach out to 70% of our Muslim residents there. We found three groups of residents, the older folks who've been there for many years. The children would have moved out, and from there, we look at the welfare and well-being of this group. And the coordination happens between SSO and MUIS to ensure that they are supported. The middle group are the ones who have got, who are middle-aged with young adult children with potential for home ownership. And for that, we work with agencies like E2I and Mendaki Sense to create opportunities for us to upskill and upgrade the adults so that they can possibly find good jobs, increase their economic potential to be able to be homeowners. The third group is the one that I mentioned earlier that requires a lot more attention. These are the young families who are married and did not have the ability to purchase their homes yet. And so we offer, HDB offers them rental housing. And within that space, we also want to make sure that we support the children. These young families have got a number of children, 3 to 5 children, and that's really where the volunteers also come in actively. The Dian ambassadors, where they are trained to help these families. So Dr. Wan Rizal is right. We need a lot of manpower, and that's why in my speech I spoke about the call for more of our Singaporeans out there, regardless whether you're Malay, Muslim, or not. If you have the heart to want to help families in rental flats, help the children, uplift them, work with us together, and join us. Thank you.
Short clarification, Mr. Mohamad Fahmi bin Aliman.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Still on Dian bin Maliki, I was again really look at it. It's a great success. We have a very strong network in terms of educating, using Kickstart and Mendaki assets to help the preschool and the early children educators. But in terms of madrasah education, I think there is a gap. Just wondering whether is there any plans to get assistance to help our youth or our students in madrasah to keep up in their own studies too. Yeah.
I think we support all the children in our Project Dian families, regardless of which school they are attending. Key to it is really to access the resources available. And through our network of agencies, Mendaki, MUIS, and Mesra, we have a pool of volunteers. So any students in the rental flat families, whether they go to madrasas or whether they go to our national schools, if they need educational support, if they need socio-emotional support, we will certainly access the resources available to them, channel resources available to them. We refer them to Mendaki's weekend tuition programs. We have got volunteers who are prepared to do home-based tutoring. And we have done that. So we have a group of mentors from the IHLs that have already been recruited. And usually what we do is when there is a request or we realize there is a student in one of the rental flat homes, assess their need for educational support, and we look for the most suitable way of support for them, whether it is home-based tuition, and that's where we then tap on the pool of volunteers that we have, or center-based weekend support, where we then refer them to Mendaki tuition programs. So certainly help is available regardless of where they go to school. More of our concern really is the very young children, for us to make sure that the resources are spent on them to be able to enhance their ability for early childhood education, and so that their cognitive and socio-emotional development gets supported right at a very early age.
I don't see any more clarifications. None. Then we will carry on with Head X COS